Today we're going to do part 2 of Arthur and the Recess Rookie. We're on chapter 3. I can't believe it, said Francine, storming into the classroom the next morning. Can't believe what? Asked Arthur. Miss Cranston doesn't want me to play the drums in the town parade next week, said Francine. She doesn't think I'm ready. That's too bad, said Arthur. The parade commemorated the founding of Elwood City, and he knew how much Francine really wanted to be included. Well, you haven't been playing that long. The others do have more experience. I suppose so, Francine frowned. But how am I going to get the experience if I don't get a chance to play? I don't know, Arthur admitted. Was anyone else left out? A few people, but George is getting to march. He plays the trumpet, doesn't he? Francine nodded. Luckily, it's a pretty safe instrument. And what is that supposed to mean? Francine snorted. It means he won't get hurt. I can't say the same when he plays kickball. Arthur looked at her blankly. You can't? Arthur, haven't you noticed? Yesterday at recess, George could have made an easy catch, and he blew it. The way he lunged for the ball, it might have hit him in the nose. Oh, that play. Well, he did go to the nurse's office afterwards, so maybe he did hurt himself. Anyway, I think George was doing the best he could. Well, he needs to do much better if he ever wants me to pick him again for my team. Francine, you didn't exactly pick him. He was the only one left. Oh, true, but still. Picking doesn't always have to be about winning, said Arthur. Francine laughed. A lot you know, she said. Really, Francine, George hasn't been playing kickball his whole life like the rest of us. Francine frowned. They don't have kickball in Sweden? I'm not sure, Arthur admitted. But even if they do, he might not have had that much experience. Besides, why do you always put him in right field? Francine snorted. Because it's the best place to hide him. But George isn't going to get any better if he doesn't get a real chance to play. What is the author doing right now in this story when he mentions that George isn't going to get any better if he doesn't get a real chance to play?
He's trying to get them both to have an experience.
To have an experience? Okay, what type of experience, Elijah?
A chance.
A chance. What two characters really need a chance?
Francine and George.
Francine and George. They have something in common. Does Francine think they have anything in common?
No.
They both have a dream.
They both have a dream, perhaps. Good job. All right? Well, that's true. Francine stopped to think. Oh, I get what you're saying. You do? Sure. You want me to work with George? Francine, said Arthur. This will be perfect, Francine went on. George will be putty in my hands. He's ready to be molded, to be shaped, to be... Francine! What? You don't even know if George is interested. Don't be silly, Arthur, Francine said with a smile. How could he not be interested? Very few people get the chance to be taught by a master. Oh, Francine's on my nerves right now. Just too much. Chapter 4. After school, Francine went to the gym to practice with the band. George was there, but since he played the trumpet, Francine never paid him much attention. We need to practice, said Miss Crancy, the music teacher. The parade, you might say, is just around the corner, so let's begin. She led them through the first 2 numbers, stopping at times to correct a few wrong notes or suggest a change of tempo. Francine was doing her best to keep up, but she was having a hard time. Karma comes back around. She closed her eyes and sighed. We're here at the National Kickball Championships, where young Francine Frensky is putting on quite a show. We've seen great athletes before, and great musicians too, but never have we seen one person who was both at the same time. Down on the field, Francine was standing on first base. That makes 7 hits in a row, doesn't it? Asked Arthur, the first baseman. 8, Francine corrected him. She adjusted her drum across her stomach. Sorry, he said. It's really amazing how you can run and play the drums at the same time. When you have many abilities, said Francine, you can always find new ways to challenge yourself. As soon as the next player kicked the ball, Francine was off like a shot. And as she ran, the rhythmic tapping of her drum could be heard across the field. She slid into third base, carefully leaning to one side so she could finish up her drum roll. Go, Francine! Keep the beat! Francine! Miss Crancy was frowning. Yes? Everyone was staring at Francine. What in the world was going on with Francine? Did that whole scene happen in real life?
No.
What was going on?
She was daydreaming.
She was daydreaming about that she was like famous and all that.
That she was all that in a bag of chips. Can she really play kickball and play the drums at the same time?
No.
Has there anybody ever played kickball and played the drums at the same time?
No.
Ooh, Francine needs to snap out of it. So everyone was staring at Francine. I don't know where you were, but I know it wasn't with the rest of us. Sorry, Miss Crancy. Francine, you have to keep your mind on the beat. You have to concentrate. If you can't play this standing still, imagine the trouble you'd have if we were marching. Francine nodded, but she kept her face down. When practice was over, Francine headed for the door. Don't get discouraged, said a voice behind her. Who do you think that voice belonged to?
George.
Maybe. Let's see. Francine turned, and it was George. Discouraged? Francine forced out a laugh. I'm not discouraged. Well, I know you weren't picked to be in the parade. And then today, anyway, don't give up. Nobody's giving up, Francine insisted, looking for a way to change the subject. And I was wondering if you still wanted to get in some practice for kickball. With a little... No thanks, George said quickly. Don't you want to get better? Francine asked. What I want, said George, is to have a good time. Oh, said Francine. And before she could think of anything else to say, George went on his way. And that's it for today. Tomorrow we'll start with chapters 5 and 6.